Hey guys, I wanted to come on again tonight for episode 2 of the mini-series that I'm doing this week about coping skills. And I just wanted to start out by seeing where everyone is from. Last night we talked about using music as a form of coping. That's one of the things that I personally have found very helpful for me. My daughter has said the same thing. And most of the patients that I have seen, clients I've worked with, often list music as one of their number one coping skills that seem to help them in different situations. So each day this week I am talking about a different coping skill that either has worked for me or I've seen work for other people, depending on the situation. And the key is finding what works for you, because everyone is different, obviously. And I've had some patients, kind of say, my therapist tells me to deep breathe and that doesn't work for me. Well, it might not work for you. Single malt scotch. We try not to do alcohol as coping skills. We're talking about healthy coping skills. So that is what I want to talk about today, is the second one. A lot of times people talk about journaling. I personally don't know if journaling often resonates with a lot of people. Sometimes if you tell someone, to set aside a time to journal, it kind of might sound like an icky feeling where it almost feels as though it's like a chore to do that, because not everybody likes to write or likes to journal. But I kind of talk about journaling with a little bit of a twist. Personally, I do like writing. I feel like sometimes when you have so many thoughts in your head, if you stop and start writing or typing or whatever it is, posting, whatever it is that you're doing, getting the words somehow out of your brain onto paper. But I combine that into recording. So maybe you want to record yourself. Sometimes I will be walking around and I just start recording my thoughts. They have obviously talk to text now, so that's helpful because you could always take what you've recorded and turn it into text if you ever want to. I do know that people sometimes say they don't like journaling because they don't want the words somewhere that people can get them. I totally get that. Some people keep their journals. I also know that that's something that you have to decide what you want to do. I personally like to keep the stuff I write. I find stuff that I write that I've written years ago, and it's kind of helpful for me to see maybe how far I've come, or the things that I was struggling with back then that I don't realize how badly I was struggling, to see the before and the after. So when you are journaling, you can get a safe box and put them locked somewhere. You could even use it as, I saw someone just say prayer, so I was actually going to get to that. So I've told people that this helps with confession too. So you could even journal your sins and then bring that into confession with you. I honestly sometimes read off of my phone or off of a piece of paper to help me remember what I want to confess. And then you can just discard that later. You can have a bonfire as a form of healing. You can take the stuff that you've been dealing with, sins or guilt or pain or whatever it is, use a bonfire as a healing thing. I actually remember in college we went to a retreat. We had a retreat house out in Syracuse that we used to go to when whoever wanted to sign up for the retreat, and we went for the weekend. And that was one thing we did, was like we each took turns having a confession with the priest. And he actually said to us, like, I want you to physically like write these things down. And then after you confess it, we all crumple it up and throw it into the fire. And that's like the physical visual of seeing like these sins are gone, like they're cleaned off of you and they're burned away. I'm going to go back up to the comments and see what I'm missing really quickly. Prayer, concept of recording yourself. I don't like writing everything out. Yeah. Yes. Hi, Leah. Yeah, you can make a folder. That's something I do. I was actually just going through, like, I have all these like Google documents of just everything. Like I'll write, my feelings of the day, or yesterday I was taking a walk. I often go to the cemetery where my grandparents are buried, to walk my dog, just because I like visit the grave and then walk around. And as I'm walking, like I'm constantly thinking, and I decided to pull out my phone and just start recording the thoughts I was having, because it was like stuff I either wanted to like use for these videos, like things I thought about that I wanted to talk about, or just things like on a daily basis. Like I'll sometimes be driving and just be like, I guess I can't say it because it'll actually do it, but I'll say, hey, person on my phone that opens things for me, open my voice recorder, and then it'll be like, it'll open it up, and I'll just, say like, hey, set a timer to call my daughter back in 10 minutes. But I do that with like reminders. Like yesterday I thought of things that I wanted to either like use on a post or use in like something else that I needed to do yesterday for work. And I'll just be like, hey, I just thought of XYZ. So I do use voice recorder a lot lately. I've started doing that. I just try to write down everything. I'm someone personally, I'm very distracted and all over the place. And so I have a thought, and if I don't write it down immediately, I lose it. So whether it's keeping something like a little notepad in your purse, or I have different journals for different things. Like I have a journal that I bring with me to adoration at church, where that's actually like intentional, where it says like, like intentions of the day, petitions that you want to pray for, and then like other things that are going on. That's probably the most like organized journaling I ever do, is when I use that. But oftentimes like I'll sit in adoration, and I don't, if you're not Catholic, adoration is when the host, the Eucharist, is exposed. And so everyone's completely silent in the church. The body and blood of Christ obviously is like exposed. So it's very peaceful. And sometimes I'll just go sit there for an hour or two and just literally write whatever I think of. And at this point I'm realizing now, like I have like chapters for a book that I didn't even know I was writing, that I've written mostly in adoration. So it wasn't like, I didn't sit and say like, oh, I'm going to journal today. Like I just thought of things and started writing. So I think that kind of leads into, so each coping skill for me, I kind of tie it into prayer. So I was saying last night that when I'm listening to music, like I'm like really listening and meditating to that music. If it's like in the background, Carrie Underwood singing gospel music, like I'm really like listening to those words. The same thing with journaling. Like I really try to like center myself and pray, like, I'll say like, come Holy Spirit, like come through and really tell me what I need to be like praying and thinking and meditating on. And sometimes the journaling basically turns into a prayer. Like, I don't know, for anyone who had a diary when they were younger, you're like, dear diary, like you're writing to your diary. Well, I kind of just feel it's like I'm writing to God. I'm talking to God, like talking to the book is talking to God. He knows you. He hears your voice. He hears your heart. He knows what you're going to say before you say it. And sometimes I just feel like, prayer can seem so like scary, I think. And for me, prayer is literally just like talking to a friend. Like I talk to God the same way that I would call up my best friend. If I'm angry, I'm telling God I'm angry. I swear, I cry, I laugh, I yell, I do all the things. And I think that when you take the pressure kind of off of yourself, like you don't need to know every Bible verse by heart. You don't need to have some fancy thing that you hear all these people like, dear Lord Jesus, please bless this person for blah, blah, like, and it just like flows out. Like, I don't feel like I've ever been someone that can do that. That's just not my style. And I think that a lot of times people don't pray based on the fact that they're like almost scared or like they are intimidated to pray because they don't know how. But everyone just has their own way of praying. You don't have to have a how for prayer. Prayer can just be having a conversation or writing or thinking. Self-attract, but I tell that thought, go ahead and play out. I don't fight it. The memory comes back. Why did I say that? Self-attract, but if I tell that thought, go ahead and play out, I don't fight it, and that helps to cope. Yeah, definitely. You can cope by just accepting. I think that's what you mean, right? The memory comes back. Why did I say that? Is that what you mean? Like to not question yourself? I don't know if you're still on. 6/14/1946. I don't know if that's what you're referring to. Just kind of like not feeling as much regret, like being able to cope better by not questioning yourself and trusting that that's just like how it was supposed to happen. Is that, I'm not sure if that's what you mean, but that makes sense if that's what it is. So anyways, so I was, like I said, I was concentrating on talking about journaling, how that helps. But I also would love to hear, yes, questioning yourself. Yeah. I would love to hear from you guys as well. If anyone has any specific coping skills or things that tend to really help you through a difficult situation. I think that those two, like the journaling and the music, are very, like, you can usually, if you're able to like have an AirPod in or something, like there's definitely like the ability to listen to music, I feel like, is something that's like, it's easy to be able to do that. Usually even at work, like you can have like a radio or something going in the background low if you can, I guess. And journaling, like I said, like it can be just writing something down on a piece of paper to remind yourself something, or like if a quote pops into your head, just recording it really quickly. So that's why I like those two. But does anyone else have other things that they would like to share? 'Cause I come on here to talk about what I know and what I've used in my personal life and what I've seen as a mental health nurse. And I see another mental health nurse on here. Hey. But I also like hearing from you guys, because that's obviously who we mental health nurses want to help. People that are dealing with the things. Like, I don't want to be telling people that something is helpful if it's not helpful. So if you guys have any suggestions, let me know. If not, that's pretty much what I had to say for tonight. I just wanted to do one short video each night this week. Every step counts, even small, since you're not giving in. Yeah, no, every step counts. In the healing process in general, every single little thing matters. And sometimes, like, coming along with that, like, sometimes your coping skill is, like, to get yourself to the next hour, to get yourself to the next day. What can you do to just get yourself through to that next day? Obviously, having any of these things on hand, I was saying, one of the things that I was actually recording myself talking about, I didn't say this last night, but we call, the plan that we do with patients before they're leaving is either, called a crisis plan or a safety plan. So that's what I talk about on here, putting that into your own life. It's, having the people that help you, the places that help you, the things that help you, acknowledging those and knowing those ahead of time, like before the crisis happens, knowing like, this is what makes me angry, the triggers, the things that make you angry, the things that make you sad. Last night I talked about cold weather being a trigger for me in the past. Knowing, okay, well, cold weather is inevitable in upstate New York. What am I going to put in place this year that will help me more than last year? Who am I going to have to call if I'm having a bad night? Who or what am I going to be able to listen to? What kind of music is going to help me feel better? Can I drive around and listen to music if I'm feeling upset? Can I, plan on Wednesday nights? I know that my daughter's with her dad, so if I'm not working at the hospital, like, what am I going to do to keep myself busy? Am I going to, go have Wednesday nights be something I do with a friend? Am I going to work on my business plan? Like, having those things in place ahead of time before you're at rock bottom is definitely the key, and doing little baby steps of things each day to help yourself feel better. Yeah, definitely recording yourself praying and thinking, like, I guess that's kind of like what I was doing. I was basically like walking around the cemetery talking to myself yesterday, walking my dog. I'm sure I looked really good doing that yesterday. But that's what I have found is definitely helpful. And you can go back and listen to it later, like, especially if you're like not in a good headspace. Like, if you record yourself when you're not in a good headspace and then you go back later and you're like, wow, like, this is what I was feeling and thinking at this point, and now here I am today. And then looking at maybe the different circumstances, what was going on that day when I sounded like this, and what's going on now, and what have I done in order to get myself back up out of that spot. Rock bottom wants to hibernate. Yeah, yes, we want to hibernate when we're at rock bottom. And I think that's why I made sure the last couple years that when I was feeling very, very helpless and hopeless and in that dark space, that I started writing about it. I wrote my exact feelings, and now I can go back and read those, and was like looking at some of it today and yesterday, and I honestly just, it's appalling to know that you were there, and that, you can get yourself out of that spot, or get other people will help you get out of that spot. So I'm going to go for the night. I will be back on around the same time, between 6:30 and 6:45 tomorrow night. If you want to chat about something, I mean, I am absolutely open to any DMing, messaging. If you comment crisis, once this video gets posted, if you comment crisis, it'll automatically send you like a thing to click in the messages where you can just sign. It's like just your name and email. That way, I'm trying right now to like set up the automations for the emails, like so like I can eventually tell you like when I'm going live, or if there's any like notifications or whatever as I get my website up and running and stuff. Everything's kind of under construction right now because the program I had been using like sold to a different program, and I don't have access to like all the stuff that I did last year to set it up. So, but that way, if Instagram or TikTok or whatever is not working, like I can still keep in touch with you guys if I have your email. I don't send like a million emails or anything, don't worry. Like it's just like if I'm going live or doing a free webinar or program or whatever. But anyways, thank you for being here. It was nice to meet you guys and see some of you again for the second night in a row. I will see you tomorrow, and you can, like I said, always message me if you want to chat or whatever around. So God bless and have a great Tuesday.